about that. Anyways, so I'm so excited. I appreciate you coming on here and giving us your time. I would love for you to share with everybody, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you kind of got to where you are today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I love talking to families that are making changes for the better for their kids, especially in this school year that we're starting. So my name is Dr. Anna Maria Temple. I am a holistic pediatrician from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am traditionally trained in pediatrics, regular medical doctor. And I was on the traditional track until 2007, at which time all three of my children were super sick with eczema, seasonal allergies, constipation, asthma, recurrent ear infection, recurrent croup, and so on and so forth. And they were 2, 4, and 6. And I was 5 years into my medical practice at that time, and I was tired of my children being on antibiotics and multiple other over-the-counter medications. And being tired, I took them to the doctor one day. And I was like, why are they always on medications? And for my little one who had seasonal allergies that were so bad that on for Easter egg hunts, he couldn't go outside because his eyes would swell shut and he would have tears streaming down his face and his body would be covered in hives. And they're like, well, there's nothing else we can do because he's already on 5 medications. The only next step is allergy shots. He was 2 years old.
Man.
And my daughter had recurrent ear infections, croup, asthma, eczema, allergies, and she was on continuous daily inhaled steroid, topical steroids, allergy medicines, antibiotics, you name it. And they were like, well, she just have to take her chronic steroids and that will keep her issues under control. And my middle one, who was 4 at the time, was so gross. He had the kind of snot that you would never be allowed in public these days. There are not enough tissues at Costco to take care of that. And they're like, he's just going to need more antibiotics. And at that point I stopped listening. I don't even know what they said about his ADHD. And I walked out of there and I'm like, that can't be the right answer. I didn't have the right answer. As I said, I was in practice for 5 years, but I knew that wasn't the right answer. And my mama self was like, when the mama warrior in you takes over and it's like, this is not right. We got to do something. I don't know how we're going to figure it out, but we are going to figure it out one day at a time. And so that was my motivation at the time. And I went to my kids' school. They were at elementary school. They had a talk. A nutritionist came to talk. And it was on that Tuesday morning at 7:30 in the morning, sitting in that seat in that air conditioning, when the fog lifted and clarity came to me of what was happening to my kids. All that the lady talked about was sugar. And I realized what I was feeding my children. And just because they're eating strawberries at lunch and a vegetable at dinner did not mean that they were having a well-balanced meal. So I went home that day after work and exhausted. I was in the pantry, and to the horror of my children and my angry husband, I threw away the Lucky Charms, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Pop-Tarts, Toaster Strudels, juice boxes, milk, chocolate milk. I mean, you name a garbage and we were eating it. And then over the next 5 years, my husband and I fought over food daily. In fact, he's even like writing, he wrote blogs about it. Anyway, and my friends thought I lost my mind. My family try to disown me. My medical partners were like, what is happening over there? Anyway, well, I could tell you, I was like, I didn't have any medical studies at that time, but I was like, it can be wrong to get rid of artificial food coloring, sugar, and garbage and replace it with fruits and vegetables. And over the next 5 years, my kids came off their medications. They didn't need any more antibiotics, no more steroids. And then 9 years later, we moved to New Zealand with no medications, no health insurance, no doctors, and my kids thrived. They climbed the highest mountain and bungee jumped off the tallest bridges, because you can't turn back from chronic disease, and it all starts with what we put on the table.
Wow, that is incredible. So incredible. So, when you were in medical school, did they not teach on this as far as, where the root causes come from? Kind of what was the nutritional advice, within med school?
So med school, and I went to a very good medical school, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where, we got great medical education, but it's about how to diagnose disease, and then you diagnose it, and then the treatment plan. As far as root causes, often it's like shrugged to genetics and not much that we can do. And the focus is, okay, well, these people are sick and these are the meds. So we spend about 17 hours total in 4 years on nutrition, and a lot of it is on G-tube feeds and how to feed the kids in the hospitals. Now we talk about, like, if somebody comes in with diabetes, you should tell them to eat a healthy diet, and we tell them to exercise, but there's no teaching on how you do that. People know they need to eat vegetables, even though they look at me like I have 5 heads. They know they have to eat vegetables, but it is, how do you do it? Because knowing and doing are two very different things. So I would say, and even now, very little education is done to help people in their lifestyle, because of the root causes lifestyle. The way we learn medicine is for acute care. So if your appendix is rupturing, if you're in a trauma, if you have pus coming out of your face, if you have a horrible pneumonia that's about to kill you, modern medicine is amazing. We get to the issue, we take care of it. Unfortunately, we're applying acute care medicine to chronic conditions, and that doesn't work.
Right. Man. Well, so what do you feel like, just with your practice, what are some of the main issues that people come in with their children, that come into your office?
So we have a lot of kids coming in with eczema. I'm an eczema specialist. And so we have a lot of families that are struggling through this very difficult thing. They've been told over and over again, there's just nothing but steroids or antibiotics or Dupixent. And, the families are beside themselves. They're like, this can't be my child's story. And, I was in the same boat. 2 of my children had eczema, and even my dog, which is random. And even the vet told me that, well, it's genetic. This breed has weird skin issues. And I was like, so you're telling me I have a hideous dog? I was like, I changed his diet and his eczema cleared up, and I changed my kid's diet. Anyway, so eczema is one of the big ones. Asthma, chronic constipation, anxiety, and ADHD would be the top of the list.
So I want to get more into eczema, because that I have learned so much from you on that, and have had so many mamas reaching out to me asking questions on, here's what it is, and where do I even start? Because they are often directed in the opposite direction when it's, like you were saying, a topical issue and the root causes are not being addressed as to, what's going on physiologically in the body when you have eczema. And so I would love to kind of dive into that with you, and just maybe tell us what is going on within the body physiologically whenever someone has eczema.
So eczema is something you see on the skin. And so then automatically in our heads, we're like, it's a skin issue. It's an outside issue. It must be from what I'm touching. It must be from a lotion. It must be from a chemical. And that is true in some people. You have normal skin and you put alcohol on it and it gets irritated, that is from. But generally speaking, when we look at eczema, it is coming in from the inside. It's a gut issue that shows up on the skin. It is not just purely a skin issue. Nobody has a lotion deficiency. For thousands of years, humans have existed without a topical emollient, and they've been doing fine. But suddenly, it seems like the average person spends about $4,000 a year on topical applications alone. Much less if we look at all of eczema treatment, it's like $37 million, which is ahead of cancer treatment, because it's so prevalent. One in 5 children have eczema. In 1970, it was 1 in 15 children, and now it's 1 in 5, and it's still underreported. And I would say that probably even seeing it 1 in 2. And it is not just genetic, because that doesn't make sense. Why would we evolve to have eczema? That doesn't make any sense. And so genetics does play a role, but it is not the answer, because genetics load the gun and your environment pulls the trigger. Genetics make you more sensitive to food. They make you more sensitive to food coloring, to stress, to lack of sleep, to a detergent are not the answer to your eczema. So we got to go deep. And what we usually see is that the child has had exposure to stress in utero, to antibiotics in utero or delivery, because a majority of eczema develops before children are 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a popular misconception like, it's a normal part of childhood. Really? I'm not sure that's a normal part of childhood. And you will all grow it. 20% of people who have eczema have it into adulthood. That's 1 in 5. And 75% of people who have eczema will develop seasonal allergies. 50% will develop asthma. 6% will develop ADHD. So there is a total trek. It's not, if you have eczema, I encourage everyone to pay attention to it. It's not just something that will pass, slap a lotion on it. We got to dig deep. Why? Because the body's trying to tell us something.
Yes, that's definitely something I have learned. I personally have battled with eczema too, and I've really over the years tried to focus on my gut health and, incorporating the things that you talk about and limiting sugar and all of these things. But now, because I have pulled those things out, I don't have the flare-ups like I used to. And not only that, but if I accidentally slip some gluten in, gluten for me is a huge trigger. And I mean, I will the next day just be completely itchy, red all over. So it's pretty incredible how, our gut health plays into that. And I've seen personally how that has affected me. And so it's pretty incredible, but I do, for me, and for everyone, and you can attest to this, people at large want to find a quick fix, and think it is a topical thing that we can slap a cream on and it'll take care of it. But because it is a gut issue, and you will, encourage everyone that it is a process. It is something that is not going to happen overnight. And it is something that, it's not easy, but it's worth it. And I feel like for people like you that have the resources and, reach out and get help in that way. And it's a journey. So,
and I think a lot of people also feel, now in the era of information, they feel like they have to do it alone. They feel discouraged by their providers and they feel like there's nobody helping them. So they're like, well, I got to do it myself. It's a lonely world out there. We're supposed to be connected. We're just getting more of the message, be isolated, be alone, 6 feet away. It's just like isolation. Humanity is not supposed to be isolated. And when we go through a difficult journey like eczema, we're not supposed to do this alone. I don't know why we're getting this message then you feel like you're the only person with horrible stuff. I'll tell you, in my eczema program, one of the things I get all the time, oh my God, it's so great to find other families. Looking at other people's pictures makes you realize you're not alone. And that in itself just takes this burden off of not suffering alone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, someone with eczema, or bringing a child into you with eczema, for those out there, what would be the first step that you would encourage someone to do? What's kind of your protocol as to, what you would have somebody do first?
Sure. So the first thing we do is, we take the history to see like where things went wrong. And usually there's going to be an antibiotic or stress or Tylenol or Zantac or anti-reflux medication story, which ends up triggering the eczema. And then we go through a diet history, a thorough diet history, and processed foods are going to be the top of the list. What are processed foods? Processed foods are foods in packages. And we become a culture of convenience. So it's easy to grab and go. I'm a busy mom working, whole family. So I understand, I'm not pointing fingers to anyone, but we are a culture of convenience. So packaged foods and processed foods preservatives, with the different food coloring. You know, I have so many medical studies that show food coloring triggers eczema in different people. And again, it's not, you know, a lot of times we go, well, my son can eat blue popsicles and he doesn't have eczema, so therefore blue food coloring can be it. Well, for your son, it's not it, but for my son, it is, you know, so each human is very sensitive and different. So food coloring, preservatives are at the top of the list. Second is sugar. Sugar destroys the skin. It makes us age fast. It makes us have wrinkles. It makes the skin break apart. It provides a feeding ground for bacteria and yeast. And the more bacteria and yeast you have in your body, the more eczema you're going to have on your body, because 90% of people with eczema are covered in abnormal bacteria that shouldn't be there in those quantities.
Yeah. That is incredible. And we, in my group, we did your sugar challenge this last month, and it went so well. It's so eye-opening, because you just really don't realize. You think of, I mean, and I know years ago, I used to think, you know, oh, well, sugar, well, that's your baked treats. That's your, you know, your cookies, your brownies, that's what sugar is. But when you really start to dive in close and look at all the things that you're eating, and you start figuring out how to read ingredient labels, you find out real quickly how much added sugar there is in so many of the things that we eat. And not only that, just how, you know, typically on the back of labels, it doesn't just say sugar. I mean, sugar is there, you know, hundreds of names of sugar that it's, you know, disguised by. And so, you know, when you look at, you know, the recommended daily grams of added sugar, and then you start tallying up everything that you have eaten, you have far surpassed that real quick, fast, and in a hurry. And not even really realizing it. So it's pretty, you know, crazy how that can add up. And then not only that, but just the amount of inflammation that it creates in the body.
It is. I did when we were doing the sugar challenge, I think in February. So anyway, I even went through my pantry and I was like, oh my God, my husband threw away foods he will never eat again. He's like, again, like his cranberries. He's like, why is there There were 36 grams of added sugar in a serving of cranberries, dried cranberries.
Oh.
Well, those were gone. So yeah, he took that sugar challenge most seriously. My man, who was like, food has nothing to do with it. Now he is like one of my biggest fans.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. Well, kind of sticking with eczema a little bit, and you've talked about some of the triggers, and then you also had mentioned Tylenol and antibiotics. And so I just wanted to talk about that, and then, you know, also kind of veer into the fever subject. Just, I think of Tylenol, I think of fever, and how that all is related and affects with eczema and the gut issues and our gut bacteria.
Right. So the Tylenol is, we're seeing, you know, many studies were actually done on Tylenol, and we've shown in different populations from all different nations, from all over the country, different socioeconomic status. So it's not just one group. Where studies that were well done, it shows that when children are exposed to Tylenol in the first year of life, it significantly increases their risk of eczema for about 30 to 40%. When children take regular Tylenol, it could increase your risk of eczema up to 90%. The pathology of this is not necessarily understood, as might be related to glutathione, which is a potent, so Tylenol decreases glutathione. Glutathione is a powerful detoxer from the liver. And our bodies make glutathione from broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. Cruciferous vegetables help our body make glutathione. And when you're taking Tylenol, it breaks down that. So that's one theory of how it's going down. And then we have antibiotics. Antibiotics are destructive to the our gut microbiome. From every one human cell, we are 10 bacteria cells. And when you take, and inside of our gut, it looks like an Amazon rainforest. And just all kinds of variety. And when you take one round of antibiotics, it generally burns off a third of that rainforest.
Mm.
And the rainforest doesn't repopulate itself, just like your lawn doesn't repopulate itself after you do a burn in it. You get crabgrass, you get kudzu, you get dandelions. And same thing in our gut, we just get bacteria that shouldn't be there. With each course of antibiotics, you burn more of the forest and more of the forest. 80% of our immune system resides in our gut. And if you keep burning the forest, well, you're getting rid of the bacteria that actually protect us from what's going on in the world. We know for a fact, there's so many studies that children who have an ear infection and end up on antibiotic have more recurrent ear infections and end up with tubes compared to children who the body is allowed to resolve the ear infections alone.
That's incredible. Incredible. Well, kind of along those lines a little bit, I wanted to ask you, because I get questions all the time, and I know that you do too, about supplements. How, knowing that information about antibiotics, all of that, what can we do to boost our children and ourselves immune systems? And so are there any supplements? I know, I feel like at large, we are all over supplemented. I feel like, you can't out supplement bad nutrition, in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of times we take all these supplements because, oh, well, so-and-so says we need to take all these supplements, but we don't even in fact know what we're deficient in. And so I wanted to get your opinion about supplements and, kind of, what do you recommend, and how can we kind of boost those immune systems during this time?
Got it. So I do have like 2 minutes because I have to go in clinic,
of course.
but I have the answer. That is very easy. So one, I want to go back to the fever, I'm going to fever question. I have a YouTube channel, which is my name, where I have 2 videos, one on fever and when to panic. And one on holistic approaches to fever. So you could avoid Tylenol, because just saying no Tylenol is not helpful. So I have 2 videos, they're 5 minutes each on YouTube under Dr. Anna Maria Temple. For the supplements, I agree with you. We cannot out supplement a bad diet. And that's why I wrote a book called The Rule of 5, which I should always have attached to me. And I don't have it right here.
Oh, it's right here. I have it. And I read it.
You have it.
Yeah, I read it in a day. It's wonderful.
So in the Rule of 5, I give you step-by-step instructions on how to change your child's nutrition, sleep, movement, environmental toxins, and stress, which are all so critical right now for the immune system. And I give you studies on how those have been shown in the medical literature to improve or alter the immune system depending on how you do it. And this Saturday's post is back to school supplements on my Instagram account at Dr. Anna Maria Temple. So you don't even have to take notes. There is going to be, I'm telling you what my children take, and, discussing the whole thing that we're over supplement, and just give you a couple simple things that you need to have in your arsenal. And that is coming with pictures, with brands, with dosing. Is coming up on Saturday to make your life so much easier.
Perfect. That is awesome. Yeah. So if you guys don't follow her on Instagram. Go get her book. She does all kinds of master classes on her website. She has an eczema master class. And so if you have any questions, holler at me. I will help direct you where you need to go. But I'm so appreciative for you, Dr. Anna. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And I'm truly honored. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I hope that this helps bring a little bit of light and a little less stress in the world and for all the mamas out there. But yes, the book is $10. Instagram is free. YouTube is free. So much information I'm trying to put out there to help ease everyone's transition back into school, because my goal is to keep all our children in school this school year.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.